Good day, everyone. You are listening to the Bloomin Bodhisattva podcast, brought to you by the Rissho Kosei-kai Dharma Center in Oklahoma City. I'm James.
I'm Alyx.
I'm Jocelyn.
And I'm Karin.
And we're
the Bloomin Bodhisattvas.
You're cheesy.
So for today's episode, we are going to continue our journey down the Noble Eightfold Path. So, we talked about right view and right thought last time, and those are concerned with wisdom. Do you guys remember what we mean by right thought and right view?
I mean, yes, but I don't know how
It's
to put
hard
it
to
into
words.
define. You gave us a lot of conflicting definitions.
That's very Buddhist of me, for sure.
You said it's so correct, but not always correct because it's situationally correct.
It's more like a feel thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But it's good.
all right. So right view, what would that be?
Good view.
Yeah. So what do we mean by view?
I think of perspective, probably.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So how can perspective go wrong?
Ooh,
It can become clouded by bias.
Yeah, that's
a good
Yeah.
one.
bias.
Bias.
And extreme views.
Yes. Bias, extreme views, ego, all kinds of things. Same thing about your thought process.
What is ego, if not a bias towards yourself?
That's pretty much it. Yes. And so right thought is the same way. So right thought is just another word for wisdom. Being able to put your mind in a place where it's not distorting reality. All right, and so that's the first group of all the Eightfold Path, and that's the wisdom group. The next group is about moral conduct. And so you remember when I said that, this stuff is not about kind of a list of do's and don'ts? Well, it kind of is. All right, so
You lied.
not specifically, because it is and it
Buddhism
isn't.
always conflict in itself,
Yes.
and all
right.
these is and isn't, and it depends.
So a lot of these things came out of the practices that monks would do, and they lived a very regimented life where they were supposed to do this and that, and they had a lot of rules and regulations. So these are kind of rules to live by, and so here is what we're talking about. We're talking about right speech, right conduct, and right livelihood. And
There's a right way to talk now?
yes, and there's definitely a wrong way to talk, and
Well,
we're going to talk about how to talk right.
And probably not talk right for the rest of the podcast.
That's probably true. So these are really practical guidelines. A lot of Buddhism is really associated with, how do you situate your mind and view the world in a very unattached way. These are like practical what to do. And so they're very, very useful. So these are what in sociology we call mores. And they are Nice. So mores are customs that every culture follows. Things that you're supposed to do and things that you're not supposed to do. And some of them are like, don't murder people. Others are really, really, really kind of basic. So which side of the hallway are you supposed to walk on when you're going from class to class?
The right side.
Okay,
In
why?
America.
Why?
The correct side.
'Cause
Or, like in Harding, it's all anarchy and you just have to weave in and out of the way.
Yes, that is often. And that's what happens when people don't follow these rules. There's lists and lists of these things. Like, okay, do you cut in front of somebody in a line?
No, because that's rude.
Exactly. But why is it rude?
Unless they've cut in front of you first.
Right. Other cultures, it's a free-for-all. And you just go up, to it's whoever can get the attention of the person they need the first, and that's really all it's about. So these rules, some of them are completely arbitrary, but really what they're about is trying to create a harmonious, peaceful world. And for Buddhism, that's what all of this is about. What should you do? What should you say? What should you do for a living in order to create a more peaceful world?
Ooh, Buddhism has a job path lined up for me?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Man,
All
I
right.
should fit this into my after high school plans.
So, you guys are teenagers. Why should you follow the rules?
Not always.
Mm-hmm.
Just to, not create obviously chaos and disturbances.
So it's not just about avoiding punishment?
Well,
A little
sometimes
bit.
it
It
is.
depends
but
on what rules.
when that happens, I don't care.
Right. So when should you break the rules?
When the rules suck.
Okay.
Yeah. When your morals don't align with them.
Okay. All right. And so does that mean, let's say, it doesn't matter what your morals are? You can just be morally outraged for any reason whatsoever?
No.
In some cases, people can be.
Well, they are. It doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah.
All right. So,
I mean, you should most of the time respect rules because it's respectful to other people and what their morals are.
Unless the rules just inherently aren't respectful to other
Yeah.
people.
yeah.
Exactly.
Karin, what do you think about rule breaking?
Oh, it's a big gray area between what's ethical and what's legal a lot of times. So sometimes we do maybe break the law.
Mm-hmm.
When it, like you said, doesn't align with, one's belief system. And, I think that's where what we're seeing now, we don't see eye to eye on what's, is the right path as far as, free speech, for example, keeps coming up, and which is what we're about to talk about,
Exactly.
our First Amendment right.
Thoughts on that.
Yes, and we will get to that. And so the point here is that, just like Karin is saying, it is a gray area, but Buddhism is not going to go, well, it's just a gray area, just figure it out. No, Buddhism is going to say, hey, you can figure out how to make your way through these gray areas. And there are some basic principles. And the basic principle is try to do good to others. Try to alleviate their suffering and try to make the world a more peaceful place.
Because existence is suffering, as we all know from previous Buddhist lessons.
Exactly. And so we got to try to make sure that we improve it as much as possible. And so how does being good benefit you?
Makes you feel good.
Okay, so do you think that that's the only reason people are good is because they get a nice little warm, tingly feeling when they do good?
No, but it also just makes your life easier to be nice and compassionate and good to other people.
It also makes other people's lives easier.
Yes.
And usually when you do good things, there's this ripple effect. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Karma.
yeah, it comes back usually.
That's exactly right. So by being good, and you don't be good just because it's going to, rebound to you and your life is going to be easier.
It's not all about you.
Exactly.
It's just good to be good.
And
What we do to others, we do to ourselves.
so true.
Yeah.
And so, so that's that to me is incentive enough. If we disrespect someone else, we're disrespecting oneself, or degrading. And if one has a conscience, provided that might be a big assumption for.
Well, no, I think everyone has a conscience. We're just really good at ignoring it from time to time.
Real.
Yeah.
We're all the same animal.
Yep.
So you see this as a basic principle in everything. Doing to others as you'd have them do unto you is
The
just
golden rule.
that is a basic formulation of all of this. And Buddhism says this in very many ways over and over again.
The Berenstein Bears also told me in
sure
many
do.
different ways.
Yes.
W. Berenstein Bears.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Berenstein Bears, OG Buddhists.
All right. So we'll let you kids speak in your special coded language there.
You know who the Berenstein Bears are.
I know who the Berenstain Bears are. All right, fine.
Berenstain.
Mm-hmm. So good benefits us in several ways. And Buddhism is going to say it helps us not only be a better person, but it also helps us achieve enlightenment. And that'll be a common theme as we go through.
So you're saying good is good?
Mm-hmm. And so for Mahayana Buddhism, it's not just about you getting your mind all clear and peaceful and calm and reaching nirvana. It's about you being good to other people, and that in turn helps you become more enlightened.
And then in turn helps you reach nirvana.
Yes.
Never forget nirvana is a step.
And when we talk about the six paramitas, we'll talk about the bodhisattva vow and what all that means. So in all of these things, there's some general rules that you can just follow. And here's what they are. Be a peacemaker all the time. And so it's hard to do when there's someone who is actively hostile towards you. And someone who is maybe actively hostile towards who you are and what your identity is. It's very hard to be a peacemaker there, but that is what you do.
Or if they just don't. Or if they just don't want peace. You know?
No, they may not want peace, but again, we don't respond in kind.
No.
Okay?
Do not feed fire with fire.
It's true. And there's some real advantages to that as a tactic. Always seek to heal. That's the second kind of rule of thumb.
But what if trying to be a peacemaker is actively harmful to you?
Then you're not doing it right.
Period.
Because because being a peacemaker does not mean being a victim. And that is really important. And so we'll talk about how to kind of pull that off. But in general, when you are kind to others, it helps you heal yourself. And in general, when someone is being really hostile and aggressive, you can calm them down. Even though they don't want you to, you can calm them down. Now, how does being kind to others actually help you?
I mean, it makes sure that, you don't put yourself in situations that are harmful to you or the other people around you.
Okay, keeps you out of troubled situations, like high conflict situations.
It
Yeah,
helps
that's good.
bring you peace.
Yes, it does.
Makes friends.
It does. It makes
Yeah.
friends. So you now have a bigger support group and, all of that. Okay, so let's talk about right speech.
Now, right speech isn't interrupting you, right?
That's wrong speech. Interrupting people is wrong speech.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Very
I just
wrong.
want to make sure.
Okay. So it has been said that, and I quote, "Sticks and stones can break my bones,
But words don't hurt me.
So, is that actually true? Words can't hurt you.
No, that's not true.
I've been hurt by so many words.
Okay, what makes words?
I mean, it can be true.
Yeah, maybe.
You can make that true for yourself.
Possibly.
I mean, words don't physically hurt, but they hurt in here.
Okay.
Note, I'm currently patting my chest.
That sound you hear is chest patting. Karin, what makes words powerful?
Well, just that. They can hurt you, or they can be healing also.
And we live in we're social animals. We have whole parts of the brain that are dedicated to how people react to us. We have whole parts of the brain that are dedicated to language. And those parts are connected to our emotional centers. And so words are meant to have an emotional impact on us. That's how we kind of communicate as human beings is through language, and language has all this power behind it. And so how do words cause us pain?
Our brain can perceive them as threats.
Sure. And then that sets off our fight or flight mechanism, and off you go.
But then
What else?
also sometimes our brain doesn't know when to shut down the fight or flight mechanism.
That's true. And words can set that whole thing off. All right, so talk to us about drama. How?
Yeah,
I
bring it
I
up.
said trauma. not-
Oh, trauma. No, I think we need to talk about drama. How,
We can slide into trauma. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah,
We all have it.
True.
true.
So how other ways words cause pain?
I mean, that's kind of the only thing I think of is just other people saying things that hurt.
Mm-hmm. And many times intentionally so, using
Yeah.
words to hurt you, otherwise known as middle school.
Period.
Mm.
Yeah.
No, real.
Yeah.
Worst years
Otherwise
of my
known
life.
as social media.
Oh, you bet. And so, I don't know about you, but man, I just don't even look at comments in social media anymore.
Sometimes I will, and it's like the posts that I don't suspect there to be any drama on. I'll see like a cute picture of a snail or something, and I'll be like, "Ooh, I'm gonna check the comments to get some nice snail discussion."
Yeah, and then there's like, you can't do that to a snail. It hurts it. Or whatever. Or like, you're distressing the snail.
And I
or
check the
whatever.
profile of like the person who posted the original snail picture, and they're like a licensed snail caregiver, and I'm like,
No, literally. That stuff. Don't.
So why do we think that why do you guys think social media becomes so antagonistic and brutal when it comes to language?
Because everybody's anonymous, so there's no
It's part of it. Yeah.
backlash on you.
also creates echo chambers.
So, what do you think? Define an echo chamber for me.
There are communities, a lot of times online, though it can be in person, where everyone shares the same ideals.
Mm-hmm.
And no one challenges the ideals that these people have, and it creates, again, an echo chamber where someone will spout out the ideals, everyone repeats the ideals, and it's just a self-confirming space.
So you hear about a lot of incidents of cyberbullying, and even some where people have committed suicide. Now, why would you want to end it all just because somebody says something about you on social media?
Because other people can see that, and then it causes a chain reaction of people spreading rumors about
Right.
you.
And one of the things that we are very, very susceptible to is social isolation.
Yes.
That's people are more afraid of social isolation than they are, a lot of other things. It is a way that you can really, really hurt another person. And so, Karin, I'm thinking about like ways that words cause pain, say in political situations. Can you think of an example?
Well, I have, just a real basic question of if words were not powerful, then why is there a movement to ban books?
There you
Ooh.
go. Nicely done.
Freedom of speech, my ass.
Yeah. And so that is absolutely true. And so we know that words are going to have an incredible impact for good or for ill. And so we need to own up to that the things that come out of our mouth are going to have an impact on other people. And we don't just say, well, that's your problem if you don't like what I have to say. Okay? In every situation, you have to look at who's the audience. What are my words going to do? Are they going to help them, or are they going to cause them to suffer more? And it's a real simple choice. If you go in and you know that your words are going to cause someone to suffer, you should rethink what you're saying and how you say it.
No, but you don't understand. Causing them to suffer, in turn, helps me.
Yeah, keep telling yourself that, kiddo.
One thing that a lot of people say online is what I see is like, oh, freedom of speech, I can say whatever I want. Yes, you cannot face legal repercussions for what you say most of the time, but that doesn't mean you're free from consequence.
Yeah, it's like if you go out somewhere and you tell someone verbatim to their face, like, oh yeah, I killed someone. You can't get mad at them when they didn't take that as, oh, you killed someone. Because that's what you said.
Yeah. Or, have an opinion on something that's, not best opinion of things.
You can't get upset when you have an opinion people can disagree with.
Exactly.
and then people disagree with your opinion.
All right, so let's look at some of the ones that are actually listed as bad speech. And there's a list of them. And of course, at the top of the list
I don't see interruption on that list, Dad.
then it must not be bad.
Yay!
Lying. Why is lying a problem? And do you think any of you have gone through a whole day without lying about something?
Yes.
Is that a lie?
No.
Is that a lie?
Yeah.
No.
Why
Am I
all right,
lying?
so why do we lie? We do it all the time.
Avoid consequence or avoid hurting somebody.
Okay, so if you're lying so that you're not hurting someone, is that necessarily a bad thing?
Not always. But,
Okay.
you know.
Do lies of omission
Okay, we
count?
talk about things about being
Okay.
brutally honest. Well, is being honest often, the best thing to do? No.
It's like that thing Kant said. And I remember his name now.
Yes.
Progress from the last episode.
Karin, what do you think about lying and honesty?
It's also a big gray area, just like, let's say, stealing. Is it, more of a crime to embezzle $1 billion, or, you're going to probably get put behind bars if you steal a candy bar and a soda, maybe, depending on, laws and stuff. But, the lies, I think my point is sometimes you're overstating the obvious. One is, not you, James, and so is it really necessary to be to point out whatever it is? But, lying too, is it a little white lie or is it a big deal lie? But being truthful, I think, is always best. And if I think when we say brutally honest, we can be honest without being brutal about it.
Absolutely.
Well, and what a lot of people mean by brutally brutally honest is saying everything on your mind. So you can just not say, "Oh, somebody looks bad in that dress" or whatever.
Yes.
That's considered brutally honest, but it's just being mean.
Exactly.
Unless you know that person really well, and you can tell them when they look bad in that dress. But maybe walking up to a stranger and telling them, wow,
You look awful.
yeah, that dress is absolutely hideous. You should take it off right now. Goodbye.
All right, and so this is going to bring us into the next thing. So what we're seeing,
But
or what I'm hearing,
back
go
up
ahead.
a minute. Is
Yeah,
it
yeah.
truth or opinion?
It's opinion.
The dress. It's
Yeah.
so when we're talking honest, you're telling the truth. So
Right.
So
Well, just that's I'm talking about what a lot of people view oh, I am so brutally honest. It's to a fault. When people brag about that, it's usually just them stating their opinion unnecessarily and being mean about it.
sometimes the truth is ugly.
Yeah.
And I think that is where Buddhism comes in, because when we do have to, help me out with that word that means radical acceptance, where we accept things as they are, we can still deliver it, present it in a way that's with compassion and kindness.
Yeah.
That's it. And so I think our intention is definitely at the root of how we decide whether this is a good or a bad thing. If our intention is to help, then, there might be a lot of different ways to do that, including lying. But in general, lying violates trust.
Yes.
And we need trust in order to be able to coexist. And usually when people lie, it is out of some sort of way that they're trying to protect themselves, or they're trying to get something that they want. And for Buddhism, both of those things are going to be an ego expression, and they're going to cause more harm than good. Now, gossip. All right, I'm a teacher, and I am around nothing but gossip and rumor every day between teachers and students and their friends, and oh my God.
Got any examples for us?
Okay.
You want to gossip with us about it?
Yeah, you wanna gossip on the podcast?
So
Come on.
many examples.
Spill the
all right.
tea.
And so, and then it leads right into slander as well. And so let's kind of define gossip. So what is gossip?
Just talking about the hot topics going on in school, or
Talking
something that you've
smack.
heard. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So spilling the teas like the latest
Spilling
new
the
thing.
tea.
Yes. All right. Now I had a whole little friend group that I saw over the course of last year just blow themselves into fragments.
I wonder if I knew them.
Oh my God. And so and they would come to me in their little factions and explain their side
Oh, no,
of
you were
what
that
the
teacher.
other yes. Of what the other
He's
people
strange,
were
but
doing.
friendly, so people tell him things. Yes.
And so, yeah, I mean, in probably more detail than I really needed or wanted to know, honestly. And it was, and for me, as you know, an older person, I was really listening to this and going, why are you letting this get to you at all? Why do you care what they say? What difference does it make? And yet, for them at that time, it was really important. And for some of them, really devastating that they felt like they were being, ghosted and all those little things that you guys do to hurt each other. And that it was all about gossip. And you hear this with teachers as well, talking about, how, oh, I heard somebody else do this, or that was completely inappropriate, or this person did that, or said this. And it's all this kind of nitpicky ways of kind of shaming others. Now, seems like good, honest fun, right? What's the problem with all this gossip and rumor mongering?
It spreads.
It does. And when it spreads, every time it's retold, it gets a little bit more distorted. That's part of the problem.
People like to make it juicy.
Mm-hmm.
Over exaggerate it.
Yes.
And it always comes back.
It does.
Like William Afton. That's exactly what I'm sorry, when I said that I had to backpedal back to my boy Willie Billy.
And so gossip really seems harmless, but it can really wreak havoc because it's messing with someone's reputation. And so socially, it's really important. We get places by how people think of us. And if people have a distorted view of who we are, then we're going to get judged in ways that we don't observe. And that can literally wreak havoc in our careers, in our relationships with other people, and all kinds of problems can occur from it. It seems like it's fun, but it's actually damaging to people.
It can be, like you were saying, the intent, it can be malicious.
Yes.
And it can, be, I don't want to say successful, but, that can be followed through, in all kinds of ways. But whether it's lying or gossiping, it's all manipulation. Mm-hmm. And that's just, to me, non-Buddha-like. It's, being straight up and,
It's immature.
It really is.
That's very true.
Do the mature
Emotionally.
thing and get together with your coven and just cast curses on them. Come on.
Well, and you can do that with speech. I mean, if you're really, really good at this sort of thing, you can say just the right thing at just the right moment to completely ruin somebody, and effectively.
Or incite an insurrection.
Yes, you can, and that has been done throughout history. Now, when it gets really bad, and I think intentional, we talk about slander. So you guys know what slander is?
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
And I've heard all the ways people tend to misuse the word slander.
Right. But you know what it actually is. So give me an example of a slander.
When you purposefully say things to make someone look bad. Sometimes you're lying about it.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes you're lying about it.
Yes.
But you're construing things to make a certain party look worse.
Right.
Yes.
So you see this in politics all the time.
And drama on the internet.
Oh, yeah, and in drama class.
No, not really, actually. No,
Good
my
for-
drama class is fine.
Good, because I have been in some drama classes
Yeah,
that
you're
were
in
not.
a public school, Dad.
Yes, got it.
We were special.
Right. So,
We're in an art school.
so
so-
slander's kind of taking gossip up a notch. And it is there, and usually intentionally there. And you're right. It could be that someone has misconstrued what somebody else did, and now they're talking smack about them because they feel like, oh, well, this is a bad person, and I need to hurt them. But a lot of times it is also, I know that that person didn't do this thing that I'm saying they did. And I just want them either punished because I don't like them, or I want them out of the way because they're in between me and where I want to be. It could be that, oh my God, I really want that person's boyfriend/girlfriend. And so I'm going to slander them in order to get them away from the person that I want. And how well is that relationship going to work?
Yeah, not
Not good
great.
at all.
Yeah,
No.
no.
It's bad. It's going to be bad. And so we even have this phrase called poisoning the well. And so this is where you try to hurt someone's reputation before they've even have a chance to express who they really are. And so that way the social situation is already turned against them before they've even had a chance to defend themselves in the first place. And I've certainly been victimized by a lot of these things as well.
Yeah.
So slander, you want to tell us a story, Jocelyn?
You want to tell us a story, Dad?
Yeah, no, real.
Yeah.
I tell stories all the time.
So do I.
All right. So no, I in my previous job, I had a group of people that I worked with. It was just a couple of people, honestly, that just kind of decided they didn't want me around for whatever reason, some of which I honestly don't really understand. And they accused me of sexism and racism and harassment.
Ew.
None of which was true in any way, and I could prove it. But they did so in a forum where I was not there. I did not have a chance to defend myself or present evidence. And so by the time I was even aware of what was going on, it was too late. The people that, kind of held the strings had already sort of turned against me. They believed what was going on. And what I found was that, people who heard these things started revising their history with me in their minds, where they started to think of like, oh, wow, there was this time when he said that or did that. Right, I didn't see it at the time, but you're right. He is a racist, sexist, harassing bastard. And that was really, I'm not sure I've been as emotionally or practically devastated by anything like that before or since. And that's happened to me more than once, honestly. That was just one of the worst times. So slander, it can destroy you.
Yeah, because the only thing we really have is our actions.
Mm-hmm.
What, our reputation, our integrity, and when that's being questioned and even, lied about, slandered, it can be devastating. And yeah, so it's real passive aggressive too. You see it. It's common. Breakups bring out the worst in people, and sometimes you see that. It's very common to see people say things that aren't true about the ex, or but yeah, it's damaging for sure. It's a good example of when words can harm.
Yeah.
You hear a lie enough times, eventually it becomes the truth.
It does. And so we have to be aware that we live in a very socially constructed reality.
You could say we live in a society.
Yes, exactly. And so Buddhism is going to help us become not only aware of how these things work and catch ourselves doing it before it happens, but also we actively try to repair damage that's been done by others. And certainly if we, do something that causes damage before we realize it, we have to go out of our way to try to repair that as well. And so this leads us to the last kind of not right speech, and that is improper, careless language. All right.
How
Now,
non-specific of you.
yes. And so this is one of these things. Words have power, so it can be abused. What is an example of abusing language in a careless way?
I mean, all the topics we just went over.
Yeah, but those are all, they've got those are more intentional. This is really careless stuff. All right, so I'm going to throw one out there. Over-cussing. All right, so what's the problem with over-cussing?
You come across way more aggressive and vulgar and improper to some people than you mean to.
Oh, no.
They get the wrong idea about you.
Mm-hmm.
What's left after you bunk your head? You have no go-tos.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So you just overused it. And I'm just going to level with you kids. There are some YouTubers that are serious overcussers. And I mean, and I understand after a while it just loses its power.
You don't understand. It's the voice of a generation.
Yeah, like he made all that stuff up. Sure. And when I was a professor, I could cuss, and I liked that because, I could drop an F-bomb here and there and be fine. But I would use it as punctuation. Like, it's like, I'm going to throw this out because I really want you to pay attention to this thing. And
that's
so,
what we have to do here.
Yes.
This is PG-13.
Exactly. So we're going to try to keep it pretty
Hey,
tame.
listen. I do tend to cuss a lot. Not as much as, like, I overuse a lot of things to where they don't have meaning, but I do end up being very passionate about some of the things that I talk about. And I've been very good about not using it here.
Yes.
I'm very proud of myself.
In fact, we all pretty much have. But there's also where you're just not monitoring what you're saying. Like, you've got things going on in your head and they're just coming out your mouth without any kind of like judgment or filter going on. Not that any of you would ever be guilty of this.
No, totally not.
The thing is, sometimes in my head, because in my head I'm having conversations while I'm having the conversation out vocally. And sometimes I forget the social context of what I'm about to say if I haven't thought it through. Because there are things in my head that'll be like, yes, this comes across as a perfectly normal compliment to give someone. And then I say it, and I realize, wait, this only makes sense to me and the context I gave it in my head.
Exactly.
So I need to backpedal right now.
And so having, you don't want to sit there and overthink everything that you say, obviously. But at the same time, just being careless with speech and not understanding your audience and throwing things out there that could be hurtful is, can be a problem.
One thing I've become aware of, and it isn't hurtful language, but it's an indicator, and I'm talking about imperative language. Like when I'm around someone, the language can be an indicator of how controlling they are. And I need you to do this. I want you to do this. It's like someone, as opposed to, are you willing to do this?
That's a really good example.
And so when someone starts with the, you should, I'm like, okay, red flags, and, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to play this game, as far as being controlled and being submissive. But so anyway, but I try not to overthink, because that's, just, it's real easy to slip into that too, to say, hey, I want, but anyway, here we are. Wrap it up, James.
So
that actually made me think of something here. Because as this happens with all of us, the way we talk changes depending on who we're around. I don't always talk like this. This is kind of just podcast voice.
Yes.
But, I don't talk to the waiter at a restaurant the same way I talk to my oldest, closest friends. Because depending on the friend group, I can be very mean to those people. In, a friend way, where we're all mean to each other because we're really good friends and we all know that we don't really mean what we're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
We rib each other,
Yeah, and if you start doing that with people that are uninitiated, then it's going to come off the wrong way.
And occasionally I do, because my brain has so many little connective, wiry, conversation-y things that it gets confused sometimes. And I'll accidentally say things and jokes and stuff that I intend for other people. And I'll have to go, oh wait, I'm sorry, that was a dad joke when you were my friend? Sorry about the calling you old there.
Oh, yes, and I've been age-shamed by the best. So, 2 rules of thumb here. 1, if you have the intention to be kind, a lot of times that is what will come across. And what Buddhism is going to do is help you have kind of this almost, ongoing awareness of as I'm going in any encounter or relationship or any sort of interaction with people or with the environment, I'm building this awareness of whether I'm doing good or not doing good, and instantaneously I can kind of see whether, I'm going the right direction or not, and I can adjust course. You get that over time. And then at that point, you stop kind of making these flubs and, and saying the wrong thing. It also helps you as a listener to see someone's intentions and see where their heart is and not misinterpret whatever they're saying in a way that puts them in a bad light. And so we've talked about this before. It's called the principle of charity, where if someone makes a statement and it's open to interpretation and can be interpreted in, any, say a dozen ways, you pick the one that puts them in the best light and you interpret it there. And then if they go on and turn out to be a complete asshole, then, you readjust. But at that point, you give them the benefit of the doubt. And so I think if you put your heart and your mind in the right place, then a lot of these problems with careless speech don't happen as often. And I'm someone who has a big mouth, and I tend to say the wrong thing, but I've learned to sort of figure out what my audience is before I open my mouth sometimes. All right, everybody good?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the next thing we're going to talk about is right conduct. So, all right, give me a definition. What is conduct?
The way of doing things.
Kind of. Did you guys get decent conduct grades or good conduct medals or certificates or something when you were in elementary school?
I mean, a lot of I got bad grades, but the teacher said they liked me. Well, not bad grades. It's just they graded them very
That sounded
weirdly.
much more sad than I think it meant to be. All right.
Look, parts of elementary school were sad.
So in grade school, when you got satisfactory conduct, what does that mean?
How you work towards others.
Yeah.
Are you cooperative?
Yes. Respectful.
We actually, every week, we would have an assembly at the end of the week on Fridays. It would be in the mornings. But we'd have student of the week. And we'd have words that we showed, so integrity and kindness.
We have one of
and
those
and
framed.
each student, each class, each teacher would pick out a student for that week.
Aww.
We have that. No, I think I got one of those, actually. I got two of those. I don't know where one of them went. But we have one, and I'm pretty sure it's hung up in the hallway somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you bet.
And I'm pretty sure it was kindness or
That
considerate.
Those would be refrigerator magnet moments right there.
Oh,
for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Except they gave us big old certificates that we took home.
All right. So conduct here is just about behavior, and it's specifically about things that you do to or with your body. All right. We ready? So, to others or to yourself. And so this is about, how to be kind of responsible for having a human body. All right. So first of all, don't kill people unnecessarily. Now, for Buddhism, that means animals too. All right. So what is okay. So when is killing necessary? Let's talk about that. All right. For food. Okay. What else?
Protection.
Yeah. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Okay, so mercy killings don't have a place in Buddhism.
That I'm not sure about that. I mean, I'm kind of thinking, what would Buddha do?
Because, if being alive and continuing for a person who is so sick or basically brain dead is only causing them suffering to be alive.
Yeah.
Would Buddha consider that morally okay?
Probably.
Yeah, cool.
So, food, and then if you want to really be, vegetarian, vegan, you can say no, food's not, it's not okay either.
Was Buddha vegetarian?
Probably.
I know Tripitaka was at least vegetarian. You don't know who that is because you don't know about the journey to the West, Jocelyn.
No, I don't.
Yeah, a lot of Buddhist monks are vegetarian for sure. Okay, so we can really look at, what are the pros and cons of vegetarianism and how, Buddhism is fairly clear about doing no harm, not just to other humans, but sentient beings. And, you could make a case that, using animals for food is kind of what we're built for, but you could make a case against it as well.
I think, the problem that we're experiencing in the modern world is industrialized everything.
Yes.
And farming, and in that industry does cause a lot of harm in so many ways, environmentally, but just from the time that living being was born till its short life, all it knew was suffering.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I don't know. So for me, it's like I can't, with good conscience, consume meat,
Mm-hmm.
knowing where it came from. You know, and it was different back during Buddha's day. You know, some indigenous, tribes or bands, people would eat the heart ceremoniously.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and offer reverence to that being for letting them live another day. You know, it's that kind of thing. And here we just, consume it as we're driving or, through the drive-through. And it just, there's no like connection with that being. So
It's capitalism.
it is capitalism.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But like, it's also hard to, in an economy like this where, eating environmentally consciously is expensive, and a lot of people just can't afford it.
it's not set up for
and
it.
so, well, like, thankfully, my family, we can live comfortably and, have nice things. And so anytime that we do eat meat, we try to go to local farms and instead of going to like slaughterhouses or buying it from the grocery store. So we'd like share like a whole cow with somebody. Like we go half and half, and then we know that cow had a good life because it was free range, whatever. It's from a local farm that takes care of their animals really well and stuff like that. So our family does try and do that stuff, and it's just harder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Also, it's hard when corporations are as bad as they are, because you can go to the store and you can go buy some vegan food, but that doesn't mean that the food is environmentally good inherently.
Yeah.
Because, like, you could get, like, your friggin' Impossible Meat patties and then find out that they were made by a factory that is polluting the air and actively doing
True.
more harm as well. It's very hard to find morally good food options or just options in general when buying things.
Yeah.
Capitalism.
Well, and consumerism, in specifically consumerism, is going to divorce what goes into growing or making the product you buy and your experience of it. Those things are going to be totally separate for each other, and so you don't know or really care where the food came from, where your socks that you're wearing came from, or your T-shirt or whatever, or what the conditions that were made in. And so, this awareness that we have and try to cultivate as Buddhists, there are lots of obstacles that our modern society throws up that make it very, very difficult for us to be genuinely concerned and genuinely aware of what our behavior is doing to the world around us.
Even something as essential as our food source.
Oh,
Yeah.
especially something.
Yeah, okay. This is gonna be a weird tangent here. So, do any of you know the show The Good Place?
Yes.
Great. Because it's about that. Okay. So in The Good Place, there's this woman, it's been a while since I've seen the show, who's kind of in charge of everything. And the way that, like, people end up in heaven or hell, or the good or bad place in this case, is by, like, a tally point of all the good or bad that they've done in this life. But it's revealed that basically no one has been going to the good place for years and years. And the big woman in charge, she runs a test where she tries to, like, live a human life. And it's revealed that, like, you can basically not do anything without it being connected to either a horrible corporation or affect anyone else negatively. Because things are just so interconnected nowadays that it's impossible for these things to be as straightforward as they once were.
that is a very, very big deal. That we seem to have a lot less control over the impact that our lives have, for the good or not. But what we can do is what we can do. And so you think locally, you act locally, you try to think of how it's going to affect things globally to the best of your ability. You know, none of us are in the position of creating some sort of major revolution of the world's economy.
Not yet.
Not yet, but we can do steps all along the way to try to have as good an impact as we can. So, don't kill things. Next. Stealing. Now, of course, we know stealing's bad, but why? Why is it bad?
Because it wasn't yours.
Yeah, it's taking
At
things.
least that's what people told me.
But don't we live in this property-obsessed capitalist world where we should just be sharing everything, man?
Okay,
Yes.
you hippie.
Totally.
No, hippies have a point.
Yeah.
They always
Freaking
do.
tree hugger. No, I'm
just
kidding.
be community property.
Hey, I remember you in middle school.
No, I'm agreeing with him. I'm just making
No,
fun
I
of him
know.
to make fun of him.
I'm joking.
I was definitely a
You
hippie in
guys
middle
are all-
school.
You were a
All flower
self-described
children.
hippie.
Yeah.
I gave you a flower crown.
And
I
so
do
with,
remember that.
with stealing, again, it is one of those things where you have to be aware of, you know, what's the intention. Stealing in general is not very good. I mean, but there's always the, you know, that basic ethical paradox. You know, let's say I am completely broke. My wife needs medicine. Could I break into a pharmacy and steal the medicine?
By
I
law.
say go for it.
By morals, I say yes. By legalities, you're going to jail, bucko.
And then, Karin, I think you were really talking about the inequities that are in, you know, kind of the legal system where, you know, petty crimes are punished much, much more, you know, fervently than, you know, crimes involving billions of dollars with people that just have that kind of money to throw around. You know, corporate fraud and that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, people who do petty crimes usually are people who don't have the resources they need to survive.
And there we go with like the Robin Hood myth
Yeah.
and that archetype of, you know, when you have such inequity and people, you know, well, that's how revolutions are. You know, if you have people in servitude and you have a small handful of people that, you know, just have it all and more. And so it's like some people take it upon themselves to even the playing field. And it's probably illegal. But is it, you know, unethical? I think Jesse James paid off a, you know, an old woman's house, right? The money he stole, so she wasn't going to get thrown out of her house by they were closing her mortgage. And
Wow. I didn't know. I was not even aware of that. You guys all know who Jesse James is?
Isn't he like a famous?
Western outlaw.
yeah, so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, but he killed people and did, you know, in the process of doing that, you know, so that there was a way aftermath fallout. That's the thing, the cause and effect of whatever action that is. You know, one needs to consider before they start, you know, taking that upon themselves. I don't know. In, you know, like France, you are required to give to the poor, you know, like a grocery store. You have all this food, you're going to throw it out. You can't just throw it out. And here, if you're an employee at whatever grocery store and you go, oh, they're throwing this out, I'm going to take it, you get fired, you know? It just, you know, things don't always make sense when it comes to this issue, I think. Sometimes it's just not so cut and dry and black and white.
I have thoughts on that.
Yes. So let's hear it.
Just like I've seen videos, pictures of just large corporations just throwing away a bunch of good food that can still be eaten, or just good products that, you know, they may be expired, but they're not spoiled. They're still edible. They just throw it away. And there's tons of people who actually need this. It pisses me off.
Well, and it should, and it really has to do with our sense of individualism in this country, where we feel like if you can't have a legitimate way of getting the things that you need, then there's something wrong with you.
I don't understand it. I don't understand the mindset of the uber wealthy. You have so much. I feel like if I was in that position, I would just start mindlessly helping things.
And some of them do.
And I can't pretend to know what that much money does to a person, like, mentally, what it does to their brain to have so much all the time, so conveniently.
I mean, take a look at Dolly Parton. She's still, like, she's rich, and she still lives lavishly, but she gives so much of her money to charities and homeless and, you know, people. She's just given so much money, and she can still live like that, but she's just doing good with what she has. And, you know, reason why other people don't do that is because they're greedy. They don't.
Yeah.
It's my money.
Or mindless.
Yeah.
You know, I think what all of this comes down to is how do you increase your ability to have compassion for the people around you, and even the people that aren't around you. How do you keep expanding that circle of who and what you care for? And we can criticize the rich for not doing so, or even the poor that turn to, you know, drug dealing for not doing so, all that sort of stuff. But really what we're responsible for is, you know, our hearts and our minds. And that's what and if we try our best to try to push back against, you know, the greed and the waste that we see around us, we're going to have a positive impact on it. As minute as it might be, it's still not nothing, right?
And if we all try to put in our positive impacts, eventually it is something.
And we need to understand that, you know, there are motives behind people who do these sorts of things. And we can have compassion for them even if we don't like what they do. For example, you know, if you were very, very poor and you see all of these images of, you know, people who have cars and lots of material possessions, and you feel like that's the way you're supposed to be, and yet I can't seem to get there, then I might turn to something like drug dealing or prostitution or something like that. And there's a whole set of sociological principles that sort of talk about how people will turn to unlegitimate means of trying to gain legitimate status. And so, you know, we can have kindness and compassion towards people like that while trying to improve the system. It's when we start blaming everyone and condemning them that, you know, it turns bad. All right, and even rich people. Okay, let's talk about sex.
Okay.
All right, so irresponsible sexual practices. Now, Buddhism is not anti-sex. All right. Now, yes, there's a bunch of Buddhist monks. They have to take, you know, vows of celibacy.
That's their problem.
That's their personal choice, and that's okay.
Yes, we are what's called, you know, a lay sect, which doesn't sound right.
So we're a little more lax on the rules.
Yes, right. So we're not in a monastery. We're not practicing, but still, okay, just like words have power, sex has power too.
Anything has power, really.
Yes. Well, I mean, but sex is really powerful experience. It's powerful physically, it's powerful emotionally. I would say it's even powerful spiritually. And it's not something to be trifled with. And so a lot of people, you know, pretend to have really casual attitudes towards sex. And, you know, honestly, it's not an extraordinarily casual act. There's a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot, and it's a deep experience between two people. So what is it, how would sexuality be irresponsible? In what ways could it be?
Being careless with protection, I guess.
Okay, that could be it, like having unsafe sex, you know, being too impulsive, sure.
Using it to take advantage of other people.
Absolutely.
Ooh.
Victimizing other people sexually.
Yes.
You know, and you know, and we could go up to, of course, you know, sexual assault, you know, it's obviously irresponsible and, criminal.
It's a problem, actually.
So what other kinds of things? Let's look at cheating.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And so, well, you could say no one was hurt physically, but yeah.
It goes back to sticks and stones.
Yeah. And even deeper than that. I mean, because, when you've kind of had, intimacy with another person and then they go and kind of betray that trust that it takes to have a true intimate relationship, that hurts you on a really, really deep level. Things like adultery and that sort of stuff are really, really harmful.
Well, I mean, it's not always necessarily like that. I mean, as long as you have a conversation of what the boundaries are,
Yeah, of course.
and how open the relationship is, or if there's polyamory involved or whatever.
Absolutely. But the key is communication and agreement.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're cheating on someone, by definition, that hasn't been agreed
No.
upon.
Yes. I'm just throwing
Yes.
that out there.
Yeah, exactly. And so, there's all kinds of ways that people can share intimacy that are not harmful. And actually, studies have shown having a healthy sex life is a very good, part of overall mental and physical well-being.
But also, not every romantic relationship has to be intimate too.
No, that is exactly
People
true.
don't have to do that.
And so there are definitely people that are choosing sort of asexuality as, I think, a very sensible way to navigate through some pretty scary waters. They can be. Sex can be scary.
And oftentimes it isn't a choice, but more like as any sexuality, it is something you can find out and know about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Though, our own knowledge of ourselves can be fallible at times.
Exactly. And all of that is a growing, evolving thing. Everybody, we're all learning about ourselves as we go on. And who you are now is not going to be, in some ways, the person you'll be 5 years from now.
But having ways to define at least who you are is good.
Yes.
It is the definitive act of betrayal, though. If you have a
Yeah.
commitment and someone steps out of that relationship, it's hard to get past. It's like, or regain that trust that you ever once had, if you had it.
And then there's, just using people for their bodies without really caring about them. There are sexual predators. And also just, boys who will just sort of say or do anything to be able to, get into someone's pants, and then they're done with them. And so they've basically used someone for their own pleasure that they didn't really care about. And they've hurt them, and that's irresponsible.
What was that thing people are saying about the Barbie movie, that it's reverse misogynist? Or
Yeah, we could be.
yeah, that's what we're doing here.
Yes.
We hate men, obviously.
No, we're not saying that at all. But
I'm joking.
That is a problem with especially young men. All right.
Well, I mean, it goes a lot with the way that people talk to, especially young men, about sex.
It's a societal thing. Like there's
Yeah.
a lack of teaching compassion with intimacy and teaching them what intimacy is, and not being selfish pricks about it.
Yeah, and we could have a whole episode on
Respecting boundaries.
Yes.
no means no. And,
Communication.
and I have to listen to teenage boys talk all the time, and their cluelessness is beyond bounds.
Also, if we're going by very stereotypical male-female roles, men are oftentimes more rewarded for having sex
Yes.
than oftentimes women are.
Yes.
Since there's a lot of
Most of the time, women are shamed for
Yes.
it.
There's a lot of purity culture around women. Yeah, it's gross. It's really gross.
That makes me
the
want
whole
to crawl
thing.
out of my skin.
Yeah,
That's
all
just
of
like
it
the
is.
concept of it.
Well, men on the other hand, it's a great thing, and all their bros should go get a drink with them afterwards. But with women, it's, oh, that's shameful. You should never talk about that.
You
The slut
slut.
shame. Yes.
Whore.
So, bringing this back to Buddhism, I mean, Buddhism is going to be really, at least modern Buddhism is going to be very aware of these social double standards and know that they're actually create suffering, and therefore we really need to do what we can to try to, create standards that promote healthy behavior for men and women and everything in between. All right? So, now, let's talk about drugs.
Yeah!
Okay.
Let's talk
So-
about drugs a little bit.
So, Buddhism is not, super puritanical. Like, do you guys know what teetotalers are?
No.
All right, so do you know what a teetotaler is?
I'm a teetotaler.
Are you?
I mean, no,
Yeah.
I drink tea. That's
Oh, they're very nicely done.
Then that makes us all teetotalers.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so Buddhism is not necessarily going to say that these things are just sinful and you shouldn't do them. But however, we call them intoxicants for a reason. They have an effect on the mind and the body, and certainly abuse of them can harm you over a long period of time. And you need to take care of your body, and so that's part of it. But let's talk about when you okay, so let's talk about alcohol, for example. How much is too much alcohol?
When you start damaging yourself and others while using it.
Okay, so you're not talking strictly about just kind of physical brain damage or whatever. What kind of damage are you talking about?
The way you act while intoxicated.
Yeah.
Okay.
And oftentimes that can be used as an excuse for people too. People can do awful, harmful things while they are under the influence, and then in the morning be like, "Oh, that's when I was drunk. That doesn't count now."
Right.
Yeah.
So, you need to be aware that what alcohol does is basically poison the part of your brain that's in charge of impulse control.
whether you're drunk or not.
Yeah.
I mean, over time, it alters your personality as well,
Yes.
and how you behave towards others.
And socially, you can make a case that social drinking allows you to kind of loosen up and be warm and sociable and all of that. But there's a point to where it goes wrong.
I mean, how at what point can you tell yourself when too much is for yourself too?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to do it. The problem with alcohol is that the part of your brain that knows when you've had too much to drink is also being poisoned.
Yeah.
And so it kind of, you're, and also it takes a while for you to digest the, alcohol, which means that, the shot you just took is not going to hit your system for another half an hour. And, in the 3 you take in between there before it kicks in, and then you're dancing on the tables and throwing up. And so being responsible for your body is part of this. And so to me, here's where the line is. If you do or say something that you would not have done under normal situations, that you regret, that shows a lack of judgment, that shows a lack of awareness of how you're affecting other people, then that's too much. And that could be, is it impairing your ability to function? So let's take marijuana use. What are the problems with marijuana use?
It makes I can't even describe in words, but personally, I don't care if people do it, but there's at some point where you do it so much to where you're just like a freaking husk of yourself.
Yeah, it can create a brain fog. It is highly amotivational.
Yeah.
Where you just are no longer really kind of care about what you need to do at any given point in time. And so it's like knowing where the line is. There are a lot of people that can say that things like marijuana or other kinds of psychedelics can actually lead you to insights about the world, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, or personal insights. And so it is, but you're still playing with fire, and you need to be careful with it, especially like you guys are being very young. Your judgment is still not there yet, and so impairing it further with substances can be a problem. And like you were saying, if people are drinking or stoned or whatever, and then they do things that either harm other people or harm their own life, and then they use the drug as an excuse for, oh, well, I'm sorry I did that thing. I'm sorry I forgot to do that thing because I was stoned. That doesn't make it okay.
No. It's just like, it kind of is almost a parallel. Because I've had a lot of friends who have a lot of mental health issues that if they have like an episode or something like that, they do and say things that they don't actually mean when they're not having an episode or where they're not
Right.
manic. And they'll be like, oh, but I was having an episode that, I'm sorry, but that wasn't me. And it's like, it was. You still need to take responsibility for the things that you've said or
Yeah.
done. You have a little bit of, slack because, it's harder for you to control yourself. But that also goes for like marijuana, drugs, and whatever.
Right. And so being aware, understanding the impact you have on other people and on yourself is really all, we'll just keep saying the same things.
Yeah, and that's personally why I find these substances so terrifying.
Yeah.
I, like, on average, sober, I barely feel like I am in control of my own brain or my thoughts. And putting it through these, like, brain-altering substances sounds horrifying.
And it can be
Losing,
scary.
like, losing even more control of what I think about and what I do, it sounds so scary. And I respect other people's, desire to want to use these things. It's just personally a terrifying thought to me.
Yeah.
That's
And,
totally
and
understandable.
some of that is also related to, like, the way I've heard people around me talk about it occasionally.
Sure. Karin.
A couple points, going back to the middle path, moderation. Drinking isn't bad, but too much obviously is. So, just keep everything in moderation. And some things you just want, like, depending on the person, like, I can't touch alcohol, not because I've, have had, problems with it, but just my body rejects it. And so it's like, do you want self-improvement or self-destruction?
Yes.
It comes down to that. Nothing's black and white, but, you find that middle path for oneself. But it can definitely wreak havoc on lives, on families, on, some countries have a, out and out, epidemic of substance abuse or alcoholism. And, ours has, other issues, let's say obesity, here, we have our share of alcoholism, but in some countries where there's so much oppression, you can understand why alcoholism is such
It's
a
used
high,
as an outlet for,
it's an escape.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, that I share the Alyx sentiment with some things. Like, marijuana is maybe, like, the closest thing I'll do to ever, like, doing anything. Like, I refuse to drink at all because the thought of, the fact that it could make me sick or, make me act completely different than who I am scares me. And I've also, for a lot of my life, I've grown up around people who drink a lot and stuff like that, which I've never had, like, a super, super negative experience, but I just don't like how much it changes people's attitudes, changes.
Yeah.
Just,
The little things add up.
yeah.
Well, and then you have the whole phenomena of people, quote unquote, self-medicating in
Yes.
order to
Yes.
compensate for, mental health issues.
One of my closest friends in middle school had such a problem with drinking and marijuana to where they became dependent on it. Like, they couldn't function without it, constantly being high or drunk at school or whatever. And that was just so sad to see. Or I've known people who are dependent on marijuana for their, like, anxiety and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And on one hand, I understand that it's hard because they don't have the resources to get the medication or the help that they need. So they rely on other things that they do have access to.
Sure.
It's just, I don't know, that's really sad to see stuff like that.
Yeah, and if you're using something like that out of kind of this, deep set, emotional need, then, your chances of walking that middle ground of moderation are questionable.
Yeah.
So you can see in all of these things, it's not like don't do it or don't do it. It's like have a sense of judgment about when and where and how much.
And also, for yourself.
Yeah, take care of yourself.
It's a lot of knowing yourself for these things.
Yeah,
And
no.
even then, a lot of people, don't have how do I word this? They don't care enough about themselves to,
Yeah.
care about how much they intake. So if not for yourself, do it for other people that you care about and the other people that love you.
Yeah, self-medication can turn into self-harm.
Yes.
Good point, for sure.
All right, so in all of these things, it's not just enough to just do no harm. Of course, you want to do that. But honestly, for Buddhists, we have kind of a mission that we are out to actively do good and look for opportunities to do good. And so do you want to hear a little quote from the Buddha?
Sure, I love Buddha.
All
my
right.
main man.
So he says, laying aside the rod and sword, they are careful to harm none, full of kindness, seeking the good of all living creatures. And that's words to live by, children.
Agreed.
I love living creatures.
Yes.
I'm one of those.
You are a creature for sure.
Aw, thank you.
You're welcome.
You're a creature too.
Aw, thank you.
Well, folks, I think that is enough for one episode. Oh, wait, how far did we get through the Eightfold Path? What did we do today?
Right speech.
Yeah, so what did we learn about right speech?
Well, my thoughts are, after pondering right speech and discussing it, is that we have 2 ears and 1 tongue for a reason. The Buddha said the mouth is the front gate of all misfortune.
Oh, nice. Very good. All right.
Therefore, words can be powerful, for better or worse.
Yes, it is true. Words have power and we need to use them wisely. What about right conduct?
Right conduct is our actions and behaviors, whether it's to other people or to ourselves. All the big ones are unnecessary killing, stealing, sexual practices that are irresponsible or, hurtful in any sort of way, and drugs.
Yes. Responsibility to yourself and others. That is it. All right. I think that's enough for today, folks. We will continue down the Eightfold Path next time.
Ooh.
Thank you all for listening to the Bloomin Bodhisattva podcast, brought to you by the Rissho Kosei-kai Dharma Center in Oklahoma City. And stay tuned for the next episode when, hopefully, we will finish talking about the Eightfold Path. Until then, our fellow Bodhisattvas,
Keep on